One way to connect VNets is through what's called peering. Any two VNets in Azure can be connected using a peering relationship. A peering relationship uses the Microsoft backbone and not the internet for communication. So your data is private because it passes over the Microsoft backbone network, but it is not encrypted. If that's important to you, you need to make sure that your application that's doing the communication over the peering relationship encrypts the data before it's sent. VNet peering relationships are very quick and easy to set up. They usually take a matter of seconds. You can have a max of 500 peering relationships per region. And the cost of a peering relationship is based on volume. So it's per gigabyte of data that passes in and out of or across that VNet peering relationship. So let's see how you can set up a peering relationship between two Azure VNets. You can implement VNet peering between any two Azure VNets in the same region or in different regions. You can see here I have a VNet called VNet East in East US, another VNet, VNet West in West US 2. I'll go to VNet East, scroll down on the left to peerings, click Add, and fill out the screen that I see. I first need to name the link. I'll call this East to West. The default choices for the next three are usually correct. The first allows traffic to travel to the remote VNet. The next allows traffic to travel through the remote VNet to this VNet. And the last, since we don't have a VPN gateway set up on this or the other network, none is the proper choice there. I then identify information about the remote VNet. It was created using Resource Manager. I identify the Azure subscription and the name of the VNet, and click Add. It doesn't take very long at all to set up a VNet. It's usually done in a matter of seconds. And the Azure portal will tell us when it is finished. You can see the virtual network peering is ready. So I'm back here on the peerings blade, and now I have a peer set up from east to west. To complete this, I need to go to the other side. So the peer is VNet West. I'm going to click on VNet West. Also scroll down to peerings. Notice there is no peering here. So we set up a one-way peering from east to west. We're now going to set up the other peering from west to east. Fill it out the same way, same choices here. Just identify the remote VNet, which on this side is VNet East. Click Add. And let Azure finish the work of establishing two-directional communication between these two VNets. You can see the peering status now here is connected because the peers have been set up in both directions. From either peer, I can click on the peer link, see the settings that I made, change them if I like, save those changes. So you can see that setting up a VNet peering relationship is very simple and very fast in Azure. Now that we have a peering relationship between VNet East and VNet West, what that means is any VMs on either VNet can talk to each other via IP address. Before we move on, let's look at an example of setting up connectivity for peering in this diagram. So in this diagram, we have three VNets, a traditional hub and spoke model. So we have a hub VNet, there's VNet A, and VNet B. We decide to implement peering relationships between VNet A and hub, and between VNet B and hub. We also decide not to implement peering relationship between VNet A and B. As you saw in the demonstration, there's a peering settings blade that has choices you make. Let's discuss how that would be impacted by our diagram. The first choice, traffic to remote virtual network. That's turned on by default. This is what we would turn on between VNet A and hub, and also on the peering relationship between hub and VNet A. That establishes this green arrow, the peering relationships between these two VNets. So this just allows traffic to pass in both directions. Notice you could turn that off for any one direction on a peering relationship. Traffic forwarded from remote virtual network is another important choice you make. What if you want traffic to travel from VNet A to VNet B? If you don't have a direct peering relationship, then you must go through the hub VNet. So hub VNet would allow traffic forwarded from virtual network chosen. That would allow traffic leaving A, traveling over the peering relationship to hub, and then even though it's not bound for hub VNet, it could pass through and go to VNet B. So also an important choice, particularly for hubs if you're setting up hub and spoke situations. The last choice you make on the peering settings blade is if you have virtual network gateway considerations. In my case, for hub VNet, there's a gateway subnet deployed here, which is has a connection to an on-prem network. So for hub VNet, I would use this virtual network's gateway because there's one already on the hub VNet. For VNet B, if VMs on B want to talk to on-prem resources, since there is no direct VPN gateway, I must go through someone else's. So since there's a peering relationship, I can send traffic to hub, but I have to also then use remote virtual network's gateway. In other words, once my traffic passes to hub, then I want to use the gateway subnet to get on-prem. For VNet A, in this particular diagram, we're not allowing VMs on VNet A to talk to on-prem resources. So none would be the choice you would make between the peering relationship from A to hub. So you see the importance of having a diagram and then choosing these settings carefully just to implement the diagram. Next, we'll look at another way to connect two VNets together.